implicit bias training and the debate. All right. We've realized that, I guess that should be two separate videos because I don't even know how I'm going to put this on dash cam footage, but I've been editing dash cam footage and I've realized that I've got a lot more driving footage than I have talking footage because I've been using some videos from 2022, driving footage, thinking that I had to, anyway. So, we were watching a video about a woman named Katie Sorensen, a mom who accused some people of maybe plotting to kidnap her kids, and it was a false accusation. And so part of her punishment, or you know, part of the consequences, were to do some implicit bias training. So I was looking at this. I was looking because I knew about implicit bias tests, although I'd never taken one. So we're going to do that. But I didn't know that about specific training. So there's some really cool stuff here. So first of all, there's some good stuff in the Wikipedia here. Okay, so implicit bias training or unconscious bias training programs are designed to help individuals become aware, so achieve some critical recognition of their implicit biases. Here, biases meaning not cognitive error, but based, associations, unfavorable associations between things. Specifically, I mean, so rather than just generally a cognitive error, and they're also not. I mean, I guess it is a prejudice, but a better way to define that here is just unfavorable associations. And equip them with tools and strategies to act objectively. Bad. Not possible. You can't act objectively. Now, what you can do is sometimes shut the fuck up. Or, you can say to the police, hey, I may be completely, and she actually kind of said some stuff like this, I may be misinterpreting. But then there was other stuff that, it would have been worth her realizing that she was misinterpreting, that she did not realize that she was possibly misinterpreting. But anyway, you can look up Katie Sorensen. Let's just look her up real quick. So here's Katie Sorensen, and let's look up the accused. These two here. She was like, "Oh yeah, they were like they were plotting to take my kids. They were talking about them and circling us, blah blah." Okay. That's amazing. That's crazy. I mean, am I absolutely nuts here? We have tools and strategies to act objectively. Why do we have any problems in the world? I mean, am I absolutely tripping here? Because if you can act objectively, and I'm assuming you could also think objectively, right? Because actions are the product of thinking. Maybe not all of your thoughts, but your final thoughts are objectively sound. No, I don't understand that. I mean, because if you say that you're allowed to have non-objective thoughts, so untrue thoughts determined from more things in here than out there in the objective reality. All right, scratch where I was going with that. We have tools and strategies to act objectively. Does this mean that we should have tools and strategies to think objectively? Or at least, yeah, I'm like, our final thoughts are, while we might have occurrences of thoughts that blah, 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 we're able to objectively judge those thoughts and judge the right ones as being right. But then if you're just limiting the influence of implicit biases, how are you acting objectively? Now, there is a way to act Craig, right? There is a way to, first of all, we have dico sine quadro. You say that when it's like, I don't have much reason to say that this is true outside of here. I'm telling you, this is what it seems to me here, but I don't feel like I have concrete things that you'll easily agree with, that I can identify yet, you know? And so then you say, I don't know if this actually matches this. And I'm going to change this if we can conclude that this does not match this. I'm not perceiving something about this that you guys just aren't perceiving. Actually, speaking from me as well. But anyway, I was speaking of Katie Sorensen, or as a Craig person, accusing someone in a Craig way. Because the judgment's still going to be there. What do you mean limiting the influence of their implicit bias? Well, you can limit it. There can be so the judgment happens, but it doesn't have as much effect on the other its. It doesn't ex liver, because there's too much hindrance from the other its, which you can get with things like counter stereotype. Counter stereotype training is the most effective way to reduce implicit bias. In the area of gender bias, techniques such as imagining powerful women, hearing their stories. So you're habiting all those associations, those its, right? By offering this representation brain. We talked about the representative bias yesterday. I think the day before maybe. But for you, I don't know when it was. So by habiting this representation associated with this word, so by associating these things, well, this image with this word, and by really doing that, by not just hearing their stories, but also writing essays about them. Whoa. So now when you think woman, at least after this implicit bias training, although, probably 6 months later, if you haven't practiced it or changed your friends, you're going to have the old representation be much stronger than the new one. But after this training, you've got two pretty strong representations of women, whatever you had going into it, and also this, a powerful woman, so a weak woman and a powerful woman. So now it's easier for you to associate power and competence with women. And then of course, real life counter stereotypes, such as going to a women's college or having female professors, and thinking about them, valuing them, thinking about what was good about them, and you're habiting all of these positive associations. So then when you see woman, both representations, maybe get triggered, and the one that you've been more recently habiting, not to mention recency illusion is going to give a boost to that new representation, right? And so then through the representation, you see women, and now you're picturing some positive qualities, right? Or you're picturing both. You've got some positive and some negative qualities. That's much better than just the negative qualities, which justified a whole bunch of, more concluding and judging and so on. But now you're a little bit stuck. I know different kinds of women, it's cool. There are Indians in some parts of the Western world, in the U.S. So I've been places where I almost felt surprised. I've been in places in the U.S. and outside of the U.S. where I was almost surprised by the association of Indian with convenience store. And that is a thing in the U.S., okay? For me, growing up in the suburbs of Chicago, the only association I had was Indians, doctors. That was it. Indians were affluent. They were doctors. Yeah. And what's interesting now, so Indians in tech, I'm not talking about CEOs, but just Indian programmers. If that enters into your representation, but your representation was their convenience store, then you're imagining them low paid, blah blah. And then if you it's I don't know, you know what I'm saying? But then if you come into it, because for me, I came into it when I started associating computers with Indians, I had already seen them as fancy doctors. So then I saw them as fancy programmers. Um, but then yeah. Anyway, we're not gonna. Anyway, so we have counter stereotype. We have negation, right? So this would be the old version of remind to bind, refute to mute, negation training. So this is a refute to mute, right? Negation training decreases implicit bias through actively rejecting information that reinforces stereotypes. And so you remind to bind. You probably have to keep looking at it, right? You probably have to keep doing it in order to properly do this training, right? It's not going to be just you walk into a room, someone says, hey, this statistic about this group of people, look, it's not true, and then you walk out and you're good. No, you have to maybe write about that statistic. You have to write about how that statistic maybe undermines certain of your other ideas. You don't have to really, write anything good, because it'll be happening in India. It'll be happening. The whole that information will be getting shown to different people it refutes, or different it refutes. You understand? And then, of course, perspective taking. Make them your in group, and all of a sudden you have totally different judgment mechanisms. And honestly, it can happen like this. I do it all the time. I'm thinking about a situation between a few different people involved in the situation. I imagine them as all being the same race, and all of a sudden I feel like I'm at a loss for how to judge the situation. All of a sudden, it almost feels like, I'm not saying that I can actually feel what's happening, dico sine quadro, but what it feels like, what I imp tracing, is that all of a sudden my system wanted to go, oh, they all look the same to me. I don't know. I'm confused, because a moment ago, when I was imagining them as the races that they were in the story being told, I was seeing all these. I don't know. There's just a lot. There was I was seeing the teams, and there were things associated with the teams, and the teams were monoliths, and there were direct. Oh gosh, I don't know. And then imagine you're in a locker room, and you got the coach, and he's got the play, right? And I had all these associations of, okay, and then he wants this, and he wants that, and he's a threat, blah blah, and he's scared of blah blah. And then all of a sudden I imagine them all as the same race, and I feel like I had to start over. System one goes, oh shit, this looks like it's going to be complicated to this is not, there are no more colors, there's no more, it's just not as simple. Now I'm looking at all these discrete individuals, each real human beings. And so then the one its are like, yo, two its, do you want to look at this? Do you want to try to consider what evidence you actually have about each individual, rather than just making assumptions about one and then the other ones who are blah blah? You know what I mean? So perspective taking, I think one thing it does is it engages two its, system two its, because I think that, I don't know. All right, let's read this. Perspective taking creates a sense of empathy for a stereotyped group, which has been shown to improve attitudes towards individuals as well as the group as a whole. Typically, a perspective taking studies follow a three-step procedure. First, participants are exposed to the target minority group by watching a video that displays examples of racial discrimination, or by viewing a. Oh, okay, I wasn't even thinking about that. I was just thinking about seeing them as the in-group. But seeing yourself as, what if I was, okay. Then participants are told to reflect on that person's life. Now this will make them feel, yeah, and their emotions, or imagine themselves as the main character. What? Imagine themselves as the main character, Like imagine themselves as the person they're talking to, or the target minority group, or imagine the target minority as being the protagonist. I don't know. Anyway, a separate control group watches the same. Because there's the target minority group is the protagonist in the video, so they may imagine themselves as being that minority group because they're represented in that protagonist. Okay. Yeah. Meditation allows for tuits to come out of it, doesn't it? Because when we're more relaxed, the tuits are more willing to work. So replacement, counter stereotype, individualism. What's individualism involves participants receiving specific information. But oh yeah, right, right. And see, this is what happened exactly. This is what I'm not right. This is right. So it was easy to see teams. I mean, imagine you're looking at a soccer field. It's easy to understand what's going on, or football field, whatever. It's easy to imagine what's going on, right? First of all, this whole group is going to be sharing intentions, certain associations, whatever. You have a preference. Imagine now you just see 22 dudes. I don't know how many are in a football. I don't even know what it's called of soccer, Anyway. But it's like, imagine how you're looking at 22 individuals. It's like, dang, I got to evaluate each one. I can't just use whatever team assumptions I have. So there you go. Okay, great. So this is all part of. This is really important to recognition. Okay. So speaking of it being important to recognition, I've never done it. So let's do it. I'm very racist, very sexist. I have some its are just so good. Like sometimes I feel like a MAGA. Like I don't, and it doesn't last more than 30 seconds or more than 5 seconds if I watch actual video from MAGA. But growing up mixed in a white school, you can just, I guess, imagine. So I mean, either way, I mean, I want to belong to the blacks. I just didn't know any. So whenever I saw Black, I was like, oh my gosh, please let me. How do I be friends with them? I don't know how to talk like them, though. I want to talk like them. Oh my God, this is not how you talk like them. Damn, how do I? Oh. So I have very strong in-group its. Not the whole preference for the in-group, but trying to be in it. Adopting and that's not even just a race thing, it's also kind of just being not neurotypical, and it's not because of my experience. I think I was kind of born with, and my mother, of course, she married a white man, right? So this may be where I got it, right? And my dad, he is ingratiated. Well, I don't know. He's very critical of the U.S. So I don't know. Let's stop before it's 99% nonsense that we're saying. Anyway, for whatever reason, I know that that they have imbued, indoctrinated, inculcated, that I have, anyway, received, we'll say, that I have received. I mean, like in here, there is just this Christian, conservative, khaki wearing, white polo, neat haired, shaven white boy in here. There is. There is. Yeah, I mean, I mentioned it in videos, but when I was a kid and I used to imagine myself in the future, I was white. I just looked like a white person. It's not that I was imagining me. I was just like imagining me hanging out with my friends. And then somebody realized, wait, who in here looks like me? Who in here has thick eyebrows and brown skin? Who in here is supposed to be me, actually? So, all right. So, so I'm gonna I just want to warn you. I'm gonna do quite. It's gonna we're gonna judge me for this. Okay. All right. Preliminary information on the next page. You'll be asked to select and I swear to God, if the audio is not recording. Okay, good.